Welcome to the Comic Sauce Podcast, where we talk comics and comics culture. I am Henry Liu, and today I am going solo, just me for this one. Today is August 4th, 2023, and I'm going to talk a little bit about San Diego Comic Con. San Diego Comic Con, aka SDCC, has come and gone. And I was there. I was there indeed. Um, we'll probably recap further with Rainier, who also went in a later episode, but I can briefly touch upon my experience a bit here now. Um, yeah. So I survived SDCC, so yay for that. I barely survived. I got back on one piece. Um, no, but for real, I had a really great time in San Diego this summer, no question. Um, yeah, bottom line, I did a lot of cool stuff and I got a lot of cool shit. Period. Yeah. And that's kind of what Comic-Con's all about, right? Specifically, some of the highlights I'll run down. Um, I got a really cool commission from the amazing artist Mirka Andolfo. She did this fantastic Black Widow commission for me, and I couldn't be happier about how that turned out. That was definitely a highlight. Um, let's see. Did a lot of comics shopping. No surprise there, but yeah, I had a lot of great pickups. Probably spent a little bit too much money. No, let's be honest, I spent way too much money on comics in San Diego. But hey, it's comics. They're going to a good home, and I have no regrets there. Um, Also, panels. I went to a few panels, not a lot, but I went to a few panels over the course of SDCC. And the real standout was the Rick and Morty panel. This was Friday at Indigo Ballroom. And yeah, when I saw this on the schedule, I was like, okay, I got to make this one. And definitely was keeping an eye on it to make sure it wasn't canceled, as a lot of panels were. But it wasn't canceled. It was all systems go. And I got there really early. I got there I think like a couple hours early, in fact, just to make sure I would be able to get a seat. And I got in. I got a good seat, and it was a great panel. Lots of insight, very funny, and yeah, one of the better panels I've been to in my long history at SDCC. What else? Cosplay. I did cosplay at San Diego Comic Con. I went as the Winter Soldier, which was a lot of fun because, like I did at WonderCon earlier in the year, I went to the Marvel cosplay meetup. And similar to the WonderCon meetup, there were a lot of Marvel cosplayers. So just being part of that once again was really great. And not only did I go, but my son Simon went to that too. He went as Thor. So we were part of the big photo. Lots of fun. It was really great seeing all the other Marvel cosplayers for sure. So, yeah, we're not going to go too long in this particular episode, but just a couple other things I wanted to call out. I mean, the big elephant in the room really is the lack of Hollywood presence. I mean, that's like the top question that gets asked about SDCC 2023, right? Because of the writer strike and the actor strike, there was a diminished Hollywood presence. So that got like all the headlines, etc. But what did it really mean to an average attendee like myself? So it did have an impact. There's no question. It's not like, oh yeah, it was just the same old San Diego Comic Con. It definitely had an impact. The lack of Hollywood led to less TV and movie panels. And as a result of that, just less panels in general, because a lot of, I would say most of these canceled TV and movie panels were not replaced. There were gaps in the schedule. Like, for example, the Rick and Morty panel I went to, the hour before the Rick and Morty panel, nothing was happening. I mentioned I went there 2 hours early. Yeah, it was a 2 p.m. panel. I showed up at around noon, and I caught the like 12 to 1 panel. And then between 1 and 2, it was me and a bunch of Rick and Morty fans sitting in a huge ballroom with nothing happening. The panel that was scheduled for 1 and 2 was canceled, and they didn't replace it. And that happened a lot. So yeah, that alone was like a big change. You just don't see that at SDCC. Usually they completely fill their programming schedule. Their rooms are just wall to wall booked with panels, right? So that was very different. There were all these gaps. And, with those gaps, it led to things being really crowded everywhere else, basically, right? So yeah, the first reaction about the lack of Hollywood is, well, wasn't it like a much chiller Comic-Con because all the big celebrities weren't around, and um you wouldn't have to deal with like the Hall H madness. Well, what happened was, you know, the actor strike was actually announced really late in the game. So late that it was too late to refund your badge when the actor strike was announced, right? So it's not like the actors strike was announced and then attendees were like, I'm not going to go this year, I'm going to get my badge refunded. No, it was too late for that. So most people who got a badge went to Comic-Con, right? So yeah, that question comes up a lot. Like, oh, was it like not as crowded? It was as crowded as ever. I would say even more so because of these like gaps in the programming schedule. It just led to everywhere else being more crowded, everywhere else being other panels, the exhibit floor, off sites. I mean, you name it. Going to the bathroom, getting coffee, getting food, just everything was crowded. So I have to be honest, that was a bit of a downside to it all, right? So I wasn't particularly bummed out that there was this diminished Hollywood presence, because I knew there was going to be other cool shit to do, comic stuff and other panels to go to. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, there's going to be a lot of people still going to this con. And if they're not in Hall H, they're just going to be everywhere else. And that's exactly what happened. They were everywhere else, and it was crowded everywhere all the time, the whole convention. Yeah, I had all 4 days plus preview night. So I can attest to it. There were people everywhere all the time. So yeah, that's kind of the downside. It was just very crowded, very, very crowded. And, SDCC is going to be crowded, period. Uh, but let's just say it was more crowded than usual. And that's saying a lot because San Diego Comic-Con is notorious for being a bit of a cluster. So that said, I mentioned some of my highlights. I'll go to what I think is kind of the silver lining to that downside I just mentioned, right? So without Hollywood there, what came to the forefront? I really feel like without Hollywood there, it was the artists who were getting all the attention. And I think that is super cool, right? So yeah, the artists really became the superstars of SDCC. And that to me is so cool. So I am happy to say that I got to meet the amazing artist Peach Momoko, and I got a super cool Miles Morales sketch from her. And I mentioned, some of my top moments earlier. This is probably my number one, my top moment of SDCC 2023. Peach Momoko, awesome, awesome. And it wasn't easy. She was in high demand for the whole con. So I kind of got lucky on preview night. And I I happened upon her table at a time when her line was fairly short. So just got pretty lucky, and couldn't be happier about that experience. And she wasn't the only artist getting a lot of attention. Artist Alley at SDCC was crazy crowded, like the whole time, the whole con. It was just flooded with attendees. And yeah, I just got this vibe that the artists of the artists of Comic-Con really became the rock stars of the con, you know, um, without the celebrity actors and big name Hollywood directors and writers, etc. around, it was the artists that really came to the forefront. And how cool is that? It's like the coolest thing ever, especially now, in the age of AI generated art. We really need actual human artists to be valued, to be protected, to be supported. And I really saw this like in real life, in front of my eyes. Yeah, going back to the Peach Momoko signing, I mentioned I got this awesome sketch, right? So it was really cool getting the commissioned artwork from Mirka Andolfo. Um, but that was like a pre-order commission. So she showed up with it like finished. So I never got to see her like actually draw it. Um, like I said, I couldn't be happier with how that turned out. But with Peach Momoko, I actually saw her do this sketch like in front of my eyes, like thereby proving it is not AI generated, right? It was, I was witness to it. I even took a picture of her like doing the sketch, and it was so cool. Like it wasn't just like a little pencil sketch done. Um, she like busted out her tools, man. Like she started with a black Sharpie, did the outline of Miles, and she busted out this red felt tip pen, did the webbing on his costume and like the little spider symbol. And then, like, to top it all off, she busts out the watercolors. She is known for her watercolors, like her art. Right now, she's primarily known as like a cover artist, but she's really known for her amazing covers, which have a painted look to them, and she actually does paint. And I saw her bust out her watercolors here. So basically, she like painted in the grays um, to fill out Miles's costume. Amazing. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was actually happening. I would have been happy with like an autograph. But at that particular time, she was willing to do like these little sketches for like $20 a pop. So could not be happier with that. So yeah, I think that'll about do it for now. Like I mentioned, I think we're gonna do a more comprehensive recap with Rainier in an upcoming episode. But for now, long live the real human artists, right? Right. And with that, we can wrap up the episode. This is Farewell from Henry.